Ready to start your journey? Whether it's your first workout or you are a seasoned athlete, Endurance for Everyone Coaching wants to work with you. Our coaching team has worked with athletes from beginners to USAT national qualifiers and are comprised of experienced runners, cyclists, and triathletes who have a passion for healthy living and have been where you are. We offer comprehensive coaching programs from weekly support to basic consultation, all designed to help you achieve your goals. If you want to take your performance to the next level, look no further than Endurance for Everyone Coaching. Go to www.teamE4E.com and click on the coaching link or send an email to teamE4E@enduranceforeveryone.com. And let's get started.
Welcome to this week's Endurance for Everyone podcast.
The following program is for entertainment purposes only. Though the hosts of this show are certified Ironman coaches, their attempts at long-course triathlons and endurance events should not be taken as an endorsement for you to do something stupid too. You should make your own bad decisions, then podcast about it. Now, let's start the show.
Hey, this is John Harris.
And this is Rob Bozovich.
And Endurance is for Everyone, and this is the Endurance for Everyone podcast. Episode 158 of the Endurance for Everyone podcast is on the air. Can we say this is on the air, Rob?
It's on the air somewhere, I guess, technically. So,
but it's
yes.
not live,
yes.
So are we on the air?
Well, it's on the air between their headphone and their ear. So, yes.
Okay, we'll go with that then. All right. Live on the air for your listening pleasure for a few of you. This is John and Rob once again coming into your homes, into your cars, into your offices, into your runs, into you wherever else you're listening to this at.
You need to pick something like I'm trying to remember, there was this one comedian skit and it was like about a horoscope, how they're very, very vague, you know, he says, but no, somebody needs to be specific. And I forget how it's like, you need to be like, yes, Dan, in accounting, looking at the yellow form, like that way, the one person it hits. So John, you need to pick a very specific example, like, you know what I mean? Listening.
Yes,
in the
we know.
with only 3 candles lit.
Yes, with 3 candles lit and the dog standing outside, you know,
yeah.
As you go. That would be too specific and it'd be freaking somebody out. They'll be looking around, seeing if we're looking in the window.
I don't know if it's too specific. It's too specific in a very certain manner.
So as I said, this is 158. So I guess let's get the cat out of the bag real quick here. You want to do this first?
It's got claws. Go ahead, John. What cat is out of the bag?
Well, you know what cat I'm going to talk about. The other day we put out a survey onto the Facebook group. I put it out because it was suggested.
Somebody messaged me and said, hey, did you something net score whatever persuader? And I said, what? And they're like, okay, that answers that. Because I had no idea what they were talking about.
Oh, I know who asked you that. Pete
they probably asked you as well.
Pete did,
sure.
Didn't he? Yeah, because Pete
I never reveal my sword.
Well, he don't care. You know, he threw NPS at me and I knew what it meant. So I said, "Oh, I know what you mean. So you do this too, huh?" We'll get into that. So anyway, we're not going to get into specifics of the survey or anything, but we did put out a survey because we are interested in if people like the show, what they like about it, what they don't like about it, because we do want to, we do want to put out a show that people like. Believe it or not, we're not out here just to tick people off. But there are a few good things. We're not going to go over a lot of the bad things, but there are a few I think we should respond to, don't you?
Yes.
Yes.
I want to see what you want to respond to.
Because I'm the one sitting here looking at it on my phone. The results.
Okay. Good,
we did end up with a good.
I didn't lose any sleep, and I don't have what bugs me memorized. Okay, go on, John.
You don't? I can read your email that you sent me. I did say.
You only sent one.
You think I'm the bad guy? Well, listen to Rob Brandt. Interesting that we have more women than men answering the The responding to the survey, 62% female, which kind of matches when I look at the Facebook stuff and the demographics on the show. We are more females listen to us than men. But, look at us. Why wouldn't they?
True, right?
We are the sex symbols of podcast world. The majority of our listeners...
Right behind you, John. There's the line. You just crossed it.
No, I have not crossed it. Believe me, I can go way over the line. The majority of our listeners are between 45 to 54. So they're my age.
I think a better way to answer this, Sean, is the majority of the respondents.
That's what I said.
You
said
listeners.
That? Well, the listeners who responded.
There you go.
Let's see. Most people say that they were either a good or a very good podcast. We did have a few very excellents. The quality, this is where we're going to answer. I'm going to answer a couple of these questions anyway. Most said high quality or very high quality. There was a few people that said low quality, and we'll answer that. Then we get into the thing that Pete talked about. It's the NPS, which stands for, do you remember?
No. Net promoter
score. So, and you've seen these questions on other surveys. They'll say, would you share this podcast with your friends? And so you give it a score, on a Likert scale, 0 to 10. Anything 0 to 6 is called a detractor. Anything passive is a 7 to 8, and anything considered a promoter is 9 to 10. The benchmark across over 200,000 surveys on SurveyMonkey, the benchmark is an 11 net promoter score. We scored a 24. We had 5. We had 5 detractors, which would be considered detractors, people that would not share the podcast with other people. Now that could be for many reasons. That could be because they're the only ones that listen to podcasts. They're the only ones that run. It doesn't necessarily mean they don't like the show.
Got it.
So what they're looking for there is how many of your listeners are willing to promote the show to other people, and that's what they're looking for. So then we get into the fun stuff. And we'll talk about what do you like most about the podcast, where people just get to write whatever they want. And these are really good. I mean, obviously, when I sent it to you, I think we only had maybe 10 respondents, right? So we're well above that now. But a lot of them said the same thing. John and Rob's dynamics together, we're kind of the everyman. It feels like listening to friends, talking, things like that. So we've always had that kind of feedback. I think we're still getting that kind of feedback. So that's good. And that's the kind of show we want to be. People, they like to hear the athletic struggles of normal people, normal and, bunny quotes, things like that. Race reports people like, practical tips, great information, fun to listen to and informative, like hanging out with friends, things like that. So that's the ones. Then we get to the really fun one, Rob. You know which ones those are, right?
I believe those are the ones that made me lose sleep, John.
Yeah, what don't you like about the podcast? I just got
over this.
Well, yeah, I know. And I'm not going to do the ones that called us out personally, except for a couple. But when you put out a survey like this, you're going to get 1 or 2 answers like these, because you're just kind of putting it out there. And we put it out to the show, and we also put it out to the mailing list. Like if you go to the website, actually Fat Slow Triathlete now again. If you sign up for a mailing list there, you got this survey through the email. So there's people on that email that we know personally are not fans of ours, but are still on the email list. So I kind of get where a couple of these might have come from. So I only removed one, and the one that I removed is because they said in the comments they didn't listen to the show. So if you don't listen to the show, why are you answering the survey about the show, right?
Yeah.
Makes sense, right?
Makes sense.
So what do they do not like about the show? One said the sprint episodes. Well, we don't really do those as much anymore, and because we had already kind of been told that. I think I've mentioned that to you before, right?
You didn't, but whenever you stopped doing them, I asked you if I should do more, and you never responded, and that kind of ended that. So, all right.
Some said I enjoy it and wouldn't change anything about it. One said that we should have an Ask the Host questions segment, which we've tried to figure out how to do that. We've asked for emails before and that we could just answer people's questions, and we might do that again. But we're trying to figure out a way to go live, and we just haven't figured that out yet. So if anybody out there listening knows how to do that, please let us know, because we do want to do that.
Hey, John. Can I cut you off and interject?
Sure.
Which I know is something that people hate whenever I do. So just,
I was going to say
that being said, really, you are saying about going live, and we tried the Facebook thing for a little bit, and we also tried. You're now experimenting with the Facebook Live, but the problem, I guess, and if anyone has the technical expertise to help us with this, part of that whole sound quality thing we'll get to as well, and that is, we're trying it, but like the show John and I just recorded, it'll come out next week. This show is going to come out this week. Right. But whenever we start getting multiple people on a call and so forth, by the time, like if person A speaks, then John hears it, maybe it's a second delay, then I hear it, it's another second. So then we start talking over each other, and it just gets a little bit too jumbled. And that's just something that I personally don't have the expertise. I'm not into tech enough to figure this out.
Right.
And I don't know if you are or just don't have the time, John. But if somebody out there has this and says, use this program, it'll work spot on, we would love to do that. That was the point of us trying the Facebook Lives originally, was people could chime in and we could ask and have them ask questions and answer them. It's just we haven't found a good medium that's going to work for us, which means for free.
Right, and then we'll get to that too, because that's one of the responses. I mean, and this is what I want to say, I guess, about that, is that we want constructive criticism. We want to know what we're doing wrong, what we can't do wrong. But telling us that we're amateurs, well, yeah, we are. That doesn't help anybody. We don't make money at this. We don't have. When you listen to a show, a professional show like ESPN or Mark Maron or even Vinny Tortorich, they're not producing those shows. They're sending the files out, and they have an outside production company putting those shows together. We don't have the resources to do that. So when we record a show, we hang up. I sit here at this laptop, which is dying, and I try to do the best I can and cleaning it up and doing it. So to say that we don't edit, well, that's not true. I do edit. But it's not going to be a professional.
You don't edit, like right now, like if we said something very wrong or obscene, you would edit it out. We don't edit from start to finish, but you do edit, I'm using air quotes there, in the manner that you, John, put on the intro, the outro, the music, etc.
Right,
you
the production
portion. Yep.
Yeah, and that's what. So a couple of the comments, more than a couple, said something about the sound quality, and we know sometimes it's not right, but we do the best we can. One
thing I will defend: I talk a lot, I ramble. That was a complaint. Yeah, sorry, guys. That's kind of me. Second, somebody had said, and this stuck with me. Like I said, I seriously lost some sleep over it. I'm sorry. I do take a lot of this to heart. And that is, and just laying it out there. John, this was in the recording I sent you, which, hey, everyone, here's how the soup's made. I recorded a 12-minute thing where I responded to these and said, hey, John, listen to this and see if you want to put it out. John didn't even bother listening to it. He just clicked delete. So he's
did not. It's still there. I did not hit delete.
Junk file. Anyways, like using the Brian as an example, okay, this goes to like a combination of errors, and I said this kind of on the show. So I have my laptop that's an old hand-me-down from my wife, a 6-year-old, and so I had what should have been a dual mic setup working, where I'd have one headset on and Brian would have a headset on. When I got to his house, it wasn't working. I only had one mic working. So I tried clicking through the settings to make it work. Then I had nothing working. I had no sound in, no sound out, period. So finally, I got one mic working to record, but we couldn't listen to it. Like I could see the little wiggly files like on the screen. So I saw their sound waves, but I couldn't listen back to it. So and when I say it this way, that what the hour you guys heard, I was at his house for 3 hours on a Friday night to get that content, to get that out to you guys. And what I didn't, when I say want, was just Brian, and I'm going to go to people said, hey, somebody had said I should clarify, I don't like that you interrupted Brian. And that's why I jokingly just said with John, let me interrupt you. Okay. I use that verbiage, but it couldn't be an exact dialogue between Brian and I, because we were when I say handing one mic back and forth, I'd ask or say something, hit pause, hand it to Brian, hit record, Brian would record, hit pause, back and forth. And that was just like the worst opportunity that possibly was. You go back to the show just previous, the one that I did with Vanessa, for some reason, and I use the same headset and I use a mute button just so that way there's not background noise. But for some reason, I was getting that feedback. If you listen to the show, you'll hear dead silence. Then you hear beep, 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 and then you'll hear me start talking.
Right. Yeah,
my headset coming back in. And once again, from the time I recorded Vanessa's, I went out and recorded Brian's next day. When I went to listen to the files, I couldn't hear anything on my computer. I didn't even know that they were there to edit them out.
And that's another thing I could say as well, is that they sound fine on my end. Like, I'll listen to it. They sound fine. And then I'll even notice it, like when I upload it, I always check everywhere that it's uploaded to, and I'll hear stuff that, well, I didn't hear that. Where'd that come from? So sometimes it sounds fine on our computers, and then the upload, something weird happens. But like I said, and there was a comment, and we'll go along with this. A little, I don't know if they were joking. It's hard to tell and stuff like that. The comment was, maybe we should increase our patronage dollars to promise of better audio. Well, the answer to that is, yeah, maybe you should. To be honest, we have 400 downloads on average. We have 30,000 hits per show, 400 downloads per show, and we have 7 patrons. So yeah, maybe you should. That's the bottom line of that. We are amateurs. We don't make money at this, and all this is coming out of my pocket, and I'm not a wealthy man, as you know, I've said before. So, and actually there was a comment that they don't like the fact that we asked for help on the Facebook group. I said, well, So in other words, I'll take your free stuff, but I'm not going to help you. Don't ask me to help you. Things
that's
like
the one way to interpret it. Yeah.
And that's how I would interpret it. So.
Yeah. So
I don't know, and like I said, I don't know who. This is totally anonymous. I have no idea who these people are. So if I've hurt your feelings, maybe you should be hurt.
I wouldn't go as far to say that, John.
Maybe their feelings should be hurt.
I'm going to say one thing, and then I'm going to say where I was a little hurt and wanted to cry, and then I'm going to say why. And then John, I'm going to just say it this way: why you're wrong, okay? Because I felt after I went through it, I sat down and said I was wrong, because I was upset, and like I said, that was 3 hours on a Friday night at Brian's where I was away, and somebody said, for my family, for my son, my wife, and and it causes a little bit of family stress to be away for the amount of time that it takes to do some of this stuff.
Yes,
and that being said, sorry, ding, there's another one, social, whatever. Whenever somebody said, hey, Rob, Rob talks, he rambles too much. One of the things we try to teach things. And, I do. And I guess that's the reason why I'm trying to share these experiences and what we're going to be going through with the rest of the show is a lot of Rob's experiences and what I've learned and such. That's because I've been there. When I say been there, I've been 300 pounds trying low calorie in, calorie out, trying to run, barely being able to run, walk, and averaging a 18-minute mile pace. So the Rob you hear today is a decade in the making. So if I can save one person, one bad race or one pitfall, or help out in any way, I want to do that. And that's why
I think that's a great way of saying it, Rob. I mean, honestly, and I think, and we talked about this, is that people that know you through the group and things like that, they've known you for a year that you've been in the group, or that we've been doing the show, that you and I have been doing the show. You've been around longer, but they didn't know you like they know you supposedly now. They've known me for 7 years, a lot of them. Yeah. They've seen me. And I think part of the issue there is that they don't see you as that 300-pound guy. They've never seen that. They've only seen you like this, you know, and it's an easy disconnect. I think they're not seeing the 300-pound Rob. They're seeing the 190 Rob that's running 9-minute miles. You know,
I haven't met 190 Rob yet. When I see him,
but
I'll let you know.
you know what I mean. It's like, but they've seen the 300-pound John. They've seen the 280. They've seen the 270. Yep. You know, and I got my share of comments on there about was the one you said that I come across disingenuous sometimes because of, but and I told you, offline, I call bullshit on that, but because I talk about that my eating is not right. I've said it. So I'm not sitting here saying I'm gaining weight. I don't know why I'm gaining weight. I know why I'm gaining weight.
Okay.
So I call BS on that one. They're not listening. If they're saying that, they're not listening. A couple of things I agreed with. I thought that sometimes we do.
One thing, John, I want to say, I want to close this one little loop, and I was going to say what I was thinking, and then say why you're wrong. You had said, hey, these people, I forget how you just said it, but
I think if they come on to hurt our feelings, then they deserve to get their feelings hurt back. That's how.
Well, no, you said that, but what I'm saying, to go with that is, you ask for people's honest opinions,
right? And
that's why they're being honest. We ask for them to be honest, then you can't be mad. It's that whole, you can't ask for, the truth isn't always a pleasant thing to know. If they don't like something, we ask for that, so.
But there's a way to say things that's constructive, and not to say Rob talks
anonymous survey. It's an anonymous survey.
I know. So I said that.
But we ask for it. That's the best way they could vocalize that. So.
I think there's better
ways. Just because we don't agree with, when I say, forgive me, it's anything, whether it's religion, politics, whatever. Just because I don't agree with what you're saying doesn't mean that I don't agree with your right to say it.
You have an absolute right to say it, but also have a right to call you out on it. So that's the way I look at it.
I'm sticking up for
you. Don't have to be.
John,
you don't.
I'm grassrooting, trying to turn one of those people back on.
Well, you know what? It's one person. It's like if you really don't like it that much, you don't have to listen to it. You're not paying for it.
And now we're 99 downloads. Way to be, John.
I don't care. It's not hurting my pocketbook in the least. We would now see, and you get conflicting things. Like we thought the ultra running month was a good idea. A lot of people did like it, but then you get a couple of people who don't like it because they're not into ultra running. Well, that's fine. It was an experiment. We tried it. So if we know the majority of people don't like a month of the same subject, then we tried it. It's kind of like the sprints, something we thought of, we tried. It either works or it doesn't, so we can't.
But and one of the things they had said, they don't like me. Oh, and this was another Brian thing, intro. And then saying what, we're going to talk about, then talking about it, then wrapping up. Well, I did a double on Brian's. Once again, I couldn't listen to the file. And then I was cutting all the intros and outros on a different day, and I sent them to you. And I couldn't listen to the Brian file. Right. But we are, in a few minutes, we are going to finish up Try September. But since we're listening to the feedback, and that is people were saying we don't necessarily need a whole month of it. So instead of doing this week bike, next week run, we're going to do bike and run in this episode, and then move on from it. So we are listening to people say, hey, don't stretch it out over a month. Okay, not a problem. We'll fast track it.
And we're gonna, and we've decided, maybe we need to get back to basics, and maybe we've lost our way a little bit somehow. I mean, that one person actually said that, but
I didn't see that one. But okay,
no, that was a newer one that we had lost. We seem to have lost our way. Because we started off as, if you know the history of the podcast, we got into Andrew and I all we did was interviews at the end. And when this one started up, we were almost consciously not doing that, staying away from that. And we've gone back, but they loved like Megan and Karen and those things they loved. But they don't want interviews all the time. They prefer me and you talking. And I think, that's easy, because I can do that. I can, having a conversation is fine. I can do that. That's for sure. So we'll get off that now. So we do appreciate the responses, and I'm kind of, jabbing a few people here, I know, but, we want constructive feedback. We want to know what you think. If you don't like something that's on the show, we want to know about it, but tell us, try to help us make the show better. Don't just say you're an idiot. or, Rob talks too much, or John's disingenuous. Tell us why you think that. Give us an example, and maybe we can fix it. Things like that. So
examples of Rob talks too much. The last 100 episodes, or last 52, whatever.
Yeah, but because if you know that, and as I've talked, being called disingenuous bothers me, because that's one thing I don't think I am. I think I'm pretty honest about what my foibles are, and my weight and everything. So to be said that I'm hiding something is kind of like, no, I'm not. But, do I get frustrated with my weight? Yeah. But do I know what I'm doing wrong? Yeah. Yeah, of course I do. So, but I'm telling you, if I know that I'm eating right and I'm on course for a week and I've gained weight, which has happened recently, then that's not being disingenuous. That's telling you the truth. And what it harkens back to, and why it is a touchy subject with me, is that when I used to go to, after I had the cancer, and I would gain this weight, and I was doing everything I can to lose weight, and I would go to the doctor and I would tell him, I'm eating less than 2,000 calories a day. At that time it was low fat, because, this is at the beginning before I learned all this other stuff, and I'm gaining weight. I don't know, and have a doctor tell me I'm lying to them when I know I'm not. That bothers me, and that kind of touched that nerve again, because I don't feel like I lie, and I don't feel like I am disingenuous. So we'll leave it at that. You got very quiet.
I was muted because I was coughing horribly, and I figured just let it be, and just let John proceed.
Let John go. Let John go. So that being said, we're going to do it, but we want you to keep on.
You're saying it now too. All right.
That being said,
moving on.
Yeah, you got me. You got me, man. I'm one of you now. Oh man. So so tonight, after all that, well, we lasted 25 minutes doing that. I thought that was going to be a quick one. We do want to talk about biking and triathlon, and we want to talk about specifically some. You got some geometry stuff, right?
John, I got 2 different things printed on my desk. I got highlighting. I got notes. Like I'm ready for this.
So unlike me.
But I talk too much and I teach, apparently, and people don't like that. So I'm going to let you.
But here you're telling me you got highlights, you got geometry.
What's that?
But here you are with, I got geometry and I got notes, and Johnson here, I got a piece of paper with some writing on it.
I was like, I got a pencil. I can write something down.
Oh, that hit me. Write that down. But so let's start talking about the bike. So we talked about the swim, which I thought was a good episode. I mean, sound quality notwithstanding. I thought I had a lot of good information in it. So what we want to talk about tonight is the bike, and the bike during the triathlon, and specifically maybe we're going to touch on brick workouts a little bit that I know we probably disagree on. But
we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Then run, because we're just like to wrap it up and move on.
And then we'll move on. And we got a good show next week for you. So with a guest. We got an interview next week. We don't listen to anybody.
I don't. Oh, anyways. So
why don't you start with the bike stuff?
Well, what do you want to know, John?
Let's start about the
I'm
bike.
sitting back and being the guest and not interrupting. What do you mean to just ramble? Would you like?
Yes, I would like you to ramble. I would like you to ramble. So let's talk about biking as it relates to triathlon. How is biking or cycling different in a triathlon versus just being a cyclist, or just being a cyclist? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I understand. And when I say there's really only 2 or 3 predominant differences, in that it comes down to the bike. When I say how your bike's set up, if you're on a tri bike or if you're on a road bike. Additionally, if you're on a tri bike, you would have most likely have aero bars. Those are where they're a flatter bar. Everything's kind of a forward position. Your road bike has and we explained this in a different show, where the bars go out and curl down. I talked about this with Vanessa. Okay. Additionally, the geometry on the frame. Sorry, I had to cough. The geometry on the frame is slightly different. put you in a little bit more upright position. I'll go through some of that in a little more detail in a minute. You can have a road bike. You can have clip-on aero bars, and there are some different seats and seat posts you could use in order to get into a similar position. But like I said, the main difference is there. The bike is one of the main ones. It puts you in a slightly different position if you are riding a tri-bike or I'll say a modified road bike to act like a tri-bike. And that makes it a big difference in triathlon cycling versus when I say road cycling or when I say regular, like you're saying, if you're out in a competition, because I did just do a road race. Okay. And that is triathlon. And I'm going to say the common knowledge is, or that everybody knows, it's all about getting down out of the wind so that, you're in the best position, you have the least amount of drag, etc. It's enable you to do less work, be more efficient while you're doing it. Okay. Road cycling, so triathlon, you're individual. You cannot draft, some races are becoming draft legal, but the predominant field is going to be non-draft races.
Yeah, and all Ironman races are no draft.
Right, and that's why you can basically, when I say lay out across these bikes, if you coming up here soon in October, they'll have the Ironman. Second week in October is generally when it is. You'll see the Ironman, you'll see everybody down in Kona laid out across the bike. Okay, that's what I keep saying. The main difference here is body position on the bike, and in road cycling, not saying work as a team, but you work with people. So I jumped into a bike race that I hadn't done in a few years. Now I'm a little lighter and I'm training for marathons, but I threw down, and this includes hills and so forth, like an 18.5, 19 mile per hour average across the 2 or 24 mile course. When I go out and do that course solo, I'm at like a 16.5 because of wind resistance in my face. Okay. Even trying to ride aero. But whenever you're in a group, a peloton or a pace line where you have 5, 6, 8 people, the more people you end up having, you have one person you pull out to the front, you take 4, 5, 6, maybe 10 pedal strokes, then they drop off generally to the left. And then the next person pulls up and takes, a couple of pulls, they take a few second pull, and you're continuously cycling through somebody in the front who's breaking the wind. The next person back is going to get a draft advantage. The next person gets a bigger draft advantage, and so on and so forth, to when you get to the last position, you can just be sitting there like you and I are talking right now, humming along at 18 to 20 to 25 miles per hour.
Without even realize you're doing it.
Right. And that's when I say why the road, and that's when this is my teaching moment, guys. I'm sorry, but this all comes together and makes some sense. Most road races do not allow, you would say, well, hey, if aero is so, efficient, why aren't these road racers doing this? Why if it's more efficient and okay. It's more efficient in one manner, but when I say it's less efficient and it's not as safe in another manner, okay? So when you get into wind tunnel testing, and that's why, like when I say I took notes, and I'm just going to throw a couple of random things out there, like literally these bikes, all of these gear, and John, you would nerd out on this stuff. Like I understand it, but I don't pay attention to it. I mean, they get to aero testing this stuff and they talk about, the yaw, the degrees of the wind, and about, it's how much if it's hitting you head on versus 1 degree versus 2 versus 3 as you would go around. Yeah. And then the only number that really matters is pro riders really can up to about 10 degrees. That's whenever they kind of would start to feel something. Okay. But essentially the faster you are as a rider, the less the wind is a factor because you're slicing through it so fast. But also that when it comes back to the road cycling, you're in a group, you're in a pack, okay? So only the first person or two are really feeling the wind, unless it's a 90-degree, crosswind that's going to be blowing on you, okay? If it's a head-on wind, the first guy or two are really breaking all the wind. Everyone else behind is just really reaping a benefit. Okay. That's why road cyclists don't have the aero bars, because you're moving a lot quicker. You're moving, there's a lot of, up and down and out of the saddle, and you're so close. I mean, I'm talking to get the best draft, your front tire can be up to like an inch off of the guy's tire in front of you. And the more you ride with people and the longer you're in that race, the more you're getting into a rhythm. Okay. So that's why they don't allow these street races, generally aero bars, because when you're laid out across your bike, you don't have as good of control. You don't have as good of reaction time. And quite honestly, if you're in a group and you start jostling, okay, town line sprint, you see the finish line and you're getting ready and you're getting antsy, and everybody takes off, that's just more stuff to get tangled up with other people in their gear. So that's why when you say, hey, well, if aero is more efficient, two parts to that is, yes, aero is more efficient, and it's demonstrated as by all these wind tunnel testing and so forth. But, you're going to be getting such a better advantage in road cycling because of the draft of the group, and it's a safety factor. But that's why and that's why I say you give up a little bit of efficiency for safety in the road cycling. Additionally, going back now, I say the difference with the triathlon, and that is, and I started talking the geometry, and I wrote this down, and I didn't write it down. I actually printed it off something, and I'm just going to read it for you guys, and then tell you what that means. It says for a triathlon bike, the seat tube angle is typically 76 to 78 degrees. That's a good bit steeper than the 72-degree angle found on most traditional road bikes. This puts you further forward, creating a more aero position. But beyond the aero position is it actually engages your muscles a little bit differently, and that is, it hit the 72-degree seat angle on the road bikes. You're going to utilize the quads and the hamstrings. These are the ones that so when I say a cyclist, so you're giving up on a triathlon bike, you're a little farther forward, you're getting an aero advantage, but you're not going to be using your quads and your hams. So you're losing some power. Okay. That's what that is saying there. But basically it's a wash. In a road race, you can use your quads and your hamstrings and generate more power and go faster, okay? But the difference is when you hit the finish line on a cycling race, you're done. You don't have to do anything else. When you hit the dismount line on a triathlon, you need to run. John, you're a coach. What are the primary muscles you use while running?
Glutes.
Do quads and hamstrings not play any into it?
Well, of course they do, but but it's going to mostly, you're just going to switch to your glutes and your quads and your hamstrings, and
Yeah. So point behind the difference there is the aero, as I said, it puts you in a little bit better, less wind position, but it puts you at a little bit less powerful position because it's leaving your quads and your hamstrings used less. Therefore, you have more energy left in them. So you can get about the same speed going aero, laying out across your aero bars on a tri bike, and it gives you it leaves more in your legs for later and for the next portion of the race.
Yeah, I think that's
makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, and I think it's the same. I mean, when I was going to buy my tri bike, the first one, that's how they explain it to me, is that because you're so far forward, you're saving a lot of the power for the run. I did notice a difference, honestly. I still felt more comfortable on a road bike, and that's why I eventually got rid of my tri bike and just stuck with a road bike.
Yep.
So I think what people need to remember, the people that aren't triathletes know this, that the cycling during a triathlon race is as much about the cycling portion as it is about preparing yourself for the run that's coming after it. So you have to keep both of those things in mind. You have to figure out a way to cycle and cycle hard, but still have it in you for the run. all of the fueling you're going to do for your run basically is being done on your bike.
Yep.
So and people that don't race triathlons don't understand that. It's not a matter of swimming, biking, and running. It's a matter of swimming, biking, running. It's a whole different. You're always preparing for the next thing.
Right.
So
there's only that's it's just weird, or I guess I'd say hard to summarize it. But really, if I had to give I want to say a 1 or a 2-line summarization, the difference, because you can use your road bike in the triathlon. There's absolutely no problem in doing that. Personally, like you said, John, I had a tri bike. I used it for a number of years, but I always was riding my road bike for training because road bikes are just much better for going up hills. Tri bikes are not very good to go up hills because you're not in the optimum position for climbing. Okay. So, but I use a road bike, and probably about 6 years ago or 5 years ago now, I purchased a Red Shift, I believe is the brand. It's a set of clip-on aero bars that very quickly come off. There's a hard mount that goes around my handlebars, and there's a little quick release, so that way I can take them on and off real quickly if I go to do a road race. And the seat post is like, when I say it's a dual position, meaning it's a seat post and it's got this little knuckle at the top. Like if you hold 2 fingers up, just your finger, your pointer finger, your middle finger, and if you pull it like to the right, and then if you push your fingers to the left, you see how your knuckles just kind of rotate back and forth. That's what this seat post does. So it puts your seat either back for road position or forward for the tri position.
Oh, that's nice. What kind of post
when
is
I say
that?
I think, like I said, I believe it's called Red Shift. I could be wrong on that.
Okay.
When I say it wasn't cheap, like the whole setup was about $300, okay. But a road bike and a $300 adapter versus buying a whole complete tri bike is, much cheaper. And I bring that up.
I'm sorry. I've had the bars on my bike, but I've never had that on the seat. So
you can buy just the seat post as well.
Yeah.
And the one factor that I wanted to, bring out here in doing some of this research, just so I actually had some science behind some of this stuff, without talking too much, just data. Okay. Speed versus air resistance. To double your speed, you have to put out 8 times as much power due to the air resistance. So when you really, that's where a lot of people can get, when I say tripped up on a whole lot of things here about, I want to buy this because it's lighter and this and that. And, if you're a professional and you're doing this for a living, you're going to be paying attention to grams of weight. And like, once again, I'm going to go back to the yaw and all of that, to really what makes every little bit of difference. But a large portion of that, like I said, it does just come down to your body position and what you're going to be, the more in a triathlon that you can get aero, that you can get down out of the wind, the faster you're going to go and the more energy you're going to save, just as much wind resistance as you can cut down on. Now, I say that because you can go spend, $2,000 buying a set of super aero wheels, whatever, okay? Keep in mind, those are telling you how they're going to save you time from basically a dead-on headwind coming straight at you. But the bigger your wheel is, now you have like a sail. And if the wind is coming across, like I said, 90-degree crosswind, like Vanessa was talking about, people were wrecking in Lake Placid because people go spend all this money for these things that are going to give them an advantage in a dead straight line going forward, never thinking about wind blowing from the side. Okay.
Right.
That's why the only thing I'm saying with triathlon is if you can get aero, or same thing, that it's the same concept of the road cycling. That's why I said the guy that's 8th in the pace line, you're just sitting there like it's nothing because all the guys in front of you are blocking the wind. Okay. So the less air resistance you can get, the better you're going to be and the faster and more efficient that you're going to be.
Yep. Totally right.
Right. That's all I got, John.
That's all you got. You're done.
Data and science.
Drop the mic.
That's it.
No, that's good information. That's that's good information, especially for the triathletes we got. So now we're going to talk about, I guess, going from the bike to the run.
Oh yes.
And And this is where we're going to have a nice little discussion, I think.
I think we can temper it down, John. I think we're in agreement, because I just want to. Because here's the point. You had said the way you said it earlier, and this is what I'm going back to the beginning of this show where I said, John, I'm going to have to say you're wrong because of one thing. It's just one way you said or looked at things. So we're going to talk about when John says bike to run. Okay. And we'll talk about running in a minute or two here, just running, which there's not a ton of differences, but we can discuss that. But the biggest part with triathlon is bike to run, meaning you get off the bike and you got to go run. So in all these training workouts, and what I had said, and I actually heard back from a few people actually that said, hey, thanks for when I say kind of saying that, like Vanessa was saying, she doesn't do the brick workouts. Okay. And I said, well, you're a different, you're a different animal. You're training way harder than most people are, blah, 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 blah. Normal people do your brick workouts. You, John, my coach today said, well, there's that study that says brick workouts, blah, 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 blah. So, John, what did you say and what's your take on them right now?
Well, there was one study that I had read, and I could not find it, of course, when we were talking about it. But then there was a lot of articles out there from coaches that are saying that for an in-conditioned triathlete, brick workouts add no value.
See, John, now you're putting in a whole. You're changing your verbiage, so now I can't argue.
Now
with
you can't argue with me. Well, probably because when I'm at work and I'm thinking about financial things, I'm not thinking. I'm just saying, I'm talking. That there are advantages to brick workouts, obviously. But for the mental aspect of it, for example, and the pacing, to learn how to do it, to learn what it feels like, right? That's what you need to know. But you are not going to get, and this is what a couple of I don't want to say it like it's me saying it. I want to say this is what a lot of coaches were saying, and this is what the study that I read said, is that you're not getting a lot of how do I want to put it? You're not gaining a lot by running on dead legs. You're not getting faster for sure. That the whole purpose of training is to increase your fitness, right? Your fitness is your ability to do work. So the purpose of I think it was Endurance Nation that said, is like the purpose of every single workout is to increase your ability to do work. And if you look at it like that, a brick workout does not fit that. So the way you get faster is to run on fresh legs. Running on dead legs is not going to make you faster. Okay. So you can interject there. What do you want to say?
I'm allowed to talk? Thank you. Yeah. I was raising my hand. I didn't know if you were going to call on me, but you did. You're always
allowed to talk. You just talked for 20 minutes. What are you talking about?
Me? Hardly. All right. Your message to me earlier, which I thought we were going to have a much more spicy discussion on, was, I'm going to read it verbatim, the importance, and then in parentheses, or as a recent study showed, the non-importance of bricks. Okay. Right. So I thought you're basically
just a way
of
putting it. Yeah.
I know, but the way it read, I thought you were going to be saying, "Oh, you don't got to do them." Okay.
Well,
so
no,
what you
know damn well I put brick workouts into training plans. I would never say that.
I don't know. I haven't. It requires looking at it. So, anyways,
yeah.
I'm not saying the counter approach, but I'm gonna the splitting hairs, the spoiler, the answer where I was gonna go. The study you sent me, and because I then went out and read 2 or 3 different sources and articles and so forth, and one of them was actually, I think I sent it to you, and it was just published 2 years ago, I should say, and it was 2 coaches share their philosophy on bike to run, da 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 da. Mm-hmm. Okay. Every one of these things, every one of these things has one common theme that you then use the different verbiage. And you said I don't want to say a seasoned, you said a well-trained or whatever. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. They all say the same thing. And that is the brick workout is not as important, or I'm not going to go as far that none of them said it's detrimental. Okay.
No, it's not going to hurt you.
They all said it's less important for long course, for professionals and for well-seasoned, well-trained athletes.
Yes.
Now, that's when I say it this way, like I'm holding my hands up like as if anyone can see it. Let's just go to a number scale, okay? A number one person who this is their first triathlon doing something, bricks are super, and this is from my opinion. I don't got science, but I'm going to back it, my opinion, with some stuff, okay? Somebody who's just starting, bricks are super important. A scale of a 10, a professional or somebody who, and I'm even going to say it like Vanessa, this was her first iron distance. But if a normal training plan is going to call for, even that key word there is they said any long course. And I don't disagree with what you're saying and what the coaches there say. And in the debate is if you're trying to get faster, then yes, running on tired legs isn't good. And there's reasons for it that I completely agree with. And we'll get into that because I think it's pretty important for people to pay attention to. Okay. But I'm not talking about them right now. I'm talking about it's your first season. You're just getting into it. Bricks are super important. Why are bricks important? You kind of led on to one or two parts of that. And it's a big mental thing to know that you can do it. Okay. And that is all through every one of these articles. And it's not the whole mental, you're going to go do your first marathon. And the training plan makes me run a marathon before running a marathon. So I know I can do the distance. No, what this talks about is because if you're out on a bike, like I was just talking about, you're doing 16, 18, 20 miles an hour. Okay. Now you jump off the bike, if you're only ever used to running, and I don't care what pace you run, an 8-minute or a 15-minute mile. Okay. If you're used to running at a certain speed, you're going to probably be at least 2 times that speed on a bike when you're out biking. Okay. So if you're going twice as fast on the bike and then hop off and you're trying to run, you're going to most likely run too fast. You're going to run to try to keep up with other people because mentally you're used to seeing the scenery flying by it for the last 20 minutes or half hour at this certain pace. And now you feel like you're running slower, but you might actually be running too fast. You'll go out too hard and then you're either going to bonk or you risk hurting yourself. So that's why it's super important for the newbies.
Yeah. Do they still have a driver's ed in high school? Do they still do that?
Yes.
And there's a reason I'm asking. I remember when I went into driver's ed in high school, and you're in classroom training, one of the first things they taught you was about acclimation and about how when you're on a highway and you've been on a highway for 4 or 5 hours, say on a long road trip, and you get off the highway into a residential area, you need to watch your speed because you're acclimated to 60, 70 miles an hour.
Yep.
And you think you're going slow. You think you're going faster than you think you are.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
You think you're crawling and you're doing 50 miles an hour through a residential area.
Right.
It's the same concept. You've been doing 18 miles an hour on this bike. You get off the bike and now you're acclimated after 4 or 5 hours of biking to 18 miles an hour, and you're going to go out too hard.
Yep.
And you're going to be moving faster than you think you are.
Right.
You're going to think you'll be doing a 10, 11-minute mile, and you're really running a 8 or 9.
Right.
So, and what you get.
And that's where I was saying is you're either going to go out too hard and you're going to I'm going to say it's a sprint, and I'm going to use air quotes here for a reason. It's only a 5K. Okay. If you go too hard for 2.5 miles, you only have a mile to the finish. You'll do fine. But if it's an international distance, if you have a 10K, you go too hard for the first 2 or 3 miles. Now you still have half the run, and you got to walk it in if you can walk at all. If you've saved any energy,
you're in a bonk, yeah.
And that is, I'm using another set of air quotes, if you're lucky, okay? Because, a big part here, now once again, this is from the Ironman page, the article I was looking at there, right? And that is, it talks about, I'm going to say longer ones. It's not real specific, but you risk, when you start getting tired, you start slacking in your form, okay? So if you go out really hard on the swim, or really or then really hard on the bike, and now you're on the run. You get off the bike for a run, and you haven't, done any bricks ever. Okay. Once again, you're acclimated to this faster pace. And if you went too fast on the bike, you've really used up a lot of your energy. You may not have fueled correctly. You're going to start getting tired. You're going to get out on the run. You're going to be running way too hard, and you're most likely going to be doing it with poor form. You risk injuring yourself. And that's that's a very key part of why I'm going to say newbies, people new to the sport should definitely be doing the brick workouts, is so it gets you acclimated. So the first time you're doing it's not in a race, so you can work some of these out, so you know what it feels like to know what it feels like to know what it feels like. So you can know if you're leaning too hard to the right or to the left, or if you're scrunching your shoulders, or fill in the blank on anything else that can cause you much more problems later on.
Well, the way I felt it was, I always felt like I was going slower than I was, and I was always shocked to see I was going faster when I got off the bike, and I'm thinking, God, I'm barely moving, and I look at my watch and I'm doing a 10-minute mile.
Yeah,
and I'm like, holy crap! I got to back off here because I was doing way faster than I thought I was going. Endurance Nation put it a good way. I'm going to read it because I thought it was a good way to put it. They said, just stand on a random hill at any Ironman bike course, and you'll see the majority of the field crushing it, working much too hard. Next, stand at mile 1 of the run course. You'll think that the majority of the field is going to run a sub 3:30 marathon, because there's sure a lot of folks running sub 8-minute miles. But then go out to mile 18 and look at those same people.
Yep.
Because they've gone out too fast, and now they're going to be moving or walking at a much slower pace. And so that's why it is, like you said, for newbies and people new to the sport, you'd have to do it.
Yeah.
People that are used to it, it's the law of diminishing returns, right? The longer you do it, the more you're used to it, the less you need to do it, because you already know what's going to come.
Yep.
So, and you have to remember that when you underperform on a run in an Ironman, it's not due to the run. It's probably due to something you did on the bike.
Or swim, or both, or anything in between there. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been corrected on that before by Brent Larimer. He used to remember I say, the swim's the smallest part. Don't worry, just get through that. They say, yeah, but you do something on the swim screwed up, it could affect your whole damn race.
Yeah.
It is, it's 400 meters on a sprint, but if it takes you 30 minutes to do that 400 meters because you've done something weird, your whole race is shot. It's going to affect your bike. It's going to affect your run. So, and it was a good point. I never really thought about it, but the bike, anything you do on the bike, you screw up the bike, it's going to affect your run. So it's all connected,
So John,
it's all like connected.
Let me. We're leaning in on an hour, but we need, instead of doing it in a whole another hour, we had said we were going to talk about the differences now, running versus running in triathlon. What do you have on it? Because I have just only 1 or 2 lines on it to really interject.
Well, kind of. The only thing I was going to say is kind of what I just said, is that the run. You have to look at the run differently, much obviously in a triathlon than a. The joke is the jerk triathlete always says, "Oh, you ran a marathon. That's cute. How long was your bike before that?"
Yeah.
It's very, very different. And if you're a 4-hour marathon runner, you're probably not going to run a 4-hour marathon in an Ironman. You might, but the chances are you're not. So. It's just, and that's what I was saying. Usually a bad run is a result of something you did on the bike. You're going to be on the bike the majority of the day, no matter what the distance. The majority of the day is going to be on the bike. Your bike is setting yourself up for the run. So everything you do, especially in this last half of the bike, if it's a 4-hour bike, that last hour and a half or so needs to be geared toward getting ready for the run. So one is in conjunction with a case of the Justas, but with a run only, you don't have to worry about that stuff. You're going out there, you're going to do your run. You're going to be on fresh legs. You're going to have a stronger run mostly, and it's just a different animal. But what do you have on it?
The only, give me one sec. Sorry, I had a cough there, and I didn't want to cough, and everyone's I hit the cough button. I agree with what you said, and I don't want to sound like I'm saying, but here's a complete opposite take on it, and that is, for triathlon, you can train for the swim just by swimming. For triathlon, you can train for the bike when I say just by biking, and I'm going to use the caveat of I'll say alone, or like I'll go out, if I go out for a ride with Brian, who I had on the show, a lot of times, when I say we're not exactly together, he is a little quicker than me. So he'll be out ahead of me 40, 50 yards. You're not drafting 50 yards behind. Even if we're side by side, we are side by side. We're not really taking turns drafting off each other because, we're basically taking the full brunt of the wind on the bike. Right. Running, anyone, and I want to say this for our newbies, for our day one, on a scale of 1 to 10, you're at a 1 or a 2 people. Okay. It is much different running at the end of a triathlon. Okay. For the reasons that we have just stated, why I feel the bricks are important and so forth, but you can easily simulate or train for running for a triathlon by running after biking or by running on tired legs. And when I say that, because, John, you said it right. You go for your 5K and I've trained hard for this and I've tapered for it and I've done my speed workout and man, I wake up and I'm just ready to go for it. Okay. You're probably not going to PR in your 5K in your sprint triathlon after the swim and the bike. You're going to be tired. So when I say you can train on tired legs, whether it's a harder, and that's relative to yourself, training plan, like what I'm doing with the Hansons right now, whether that's more running or whether that's, bike in the morning, run in the afternoon, so you haven't quite recovered on it, whether that's run immediately after a bike. You can train for that. You can simulate that race condition much easier. That's one of the easiest things I feel to simulate and to train for. And I'm going to use those shorter races as the shorter comparison, versus a full or a half Ironman. Okay, the sprint or the international or the Olympic distance, whatever you want to call it, those are still competitive speed races. Those two were ones where if you are training appropriately with the right plan for you, you can still have a good, strong kick or a run, with some decent speed at the end of those. Like I said, when I was out at Tri-Nationals, there were still guys throwing down mid-30 10Ks. What I mean? It's still possible. But when you start getting into those longer course, the 73 and the Ironman, the half or the full marathon distance, it is all about pacing, but that pacing starts 4 hours before the run.
Yes,
regardless.
Exactly.
And that's you have to pace the entire day, not just the run.
And I guess that's what I was trying to get to was on the bike is like you have to have that in your head. That last half of the bike, you have to be preparing for that run. Yep. And that's why you don't push. Like if pushing it to you is 20 miles an hour on the bike, you don't need to be pushing that 20 miles an hour into T2. You're going to burn. You're going to have an awful run. You need to be backing off. And sometimes, as triathletes and as endurance athletes, for the most part, you have that alpha factor that you feel like you got to go balls to the wall, the whole damn time. You're not thinking that sometimes backing off is better. Yep. Sometimes just back off a mile or two an hour is going to make for a better run in the end, a better race in the end, because you're not gonna hit that wall. But telling type A athletes that is kind of hard sometimes, because they feel like they have to go hard 100% the whole time. Yeah. And sometimes in order to get through the race with your best result, you need to back off a little bit, and that comes with time. You learn your lesson. You learn that lesson pretty quickly, I think. You
learn what's right for you. You know what I mean? Like I know
pretty quick.
I know that, I do, and I go harder on the bike than most people would, but that's because I know my limits on the run, but also that doesn't mean that I'm going as hard as possible on the bike. I'm
but
not,
you're going harder.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and it's the whole mantra of, Fat Slow Triathlete, and what we use here is swim calm, bike strong, run steady. And that came from, my original coach, because my bike was so strong and my run sucked so bad just because of weight and everything, that that was the race plan for me, was to just go as hard as I can to a point on the bike, because my run was probably going to be an issue. And we knew it was going to be an issue whether I went slow on the bike or not. So, if it's going to be an issue, then we might as well just try to get ahead of the game on the bike.
Yep.
So is that it for tonight? Feels like we've been talking forever.
Seems like it. Oh, wait, that's because we have been.
This is because we have. See, they don't know that we did a show before this.
Nope.
So, no. Okay.
Time traveling shows. That one will
time
appear
traveling
later.
Shows. So we thank you again for the survey. We think we will take it to heart the majority of the suggestions, because I do think there were a lot of good suggestions out there. Try not to take it as personally as some of them were meant, I think. Rob.
Sorry, John.
Rob's over it, man. Okay. All right. Till next time, I guess we're going to post this one today. We'll post the next one with the interview next week. We haven't said who it is, but should we say who it is? We should be surprised.
I don't. When I don't say why not. I don't like saying what guests we're having before we record it in case it falls through. But in this case, that was delete. We should have it.
We'd have to both click delete because we both recorded it.
Yep.
But we talked to. So I'll say we talked to Serena Scott Thomas, the better part of Vinnie Tortorich, and talked to her about running and running and her coaching background and stuff like that. So I thought it was a good show too. So we'll have that up next week, and then after that, we're going into Rob's Chicago Marathon and Marine Corps Marathon and Fire in the Mountain in November. So we got some stuff coming up. So
lots of
racing. Yeah, lots of racing reports coming at you, which was one of the things people liked. It is one of the things they said they liked. So you got some coming.
Got at least 3 of those upcoming.
All right. Until next time, like us on Facebook. Give us a review on whatever podcast app you're using, iTunes. Someone gave us one on iTunes today.
Excellent.
iTunes, yeah, I got an email. It shocked me. iTunes, Podbean, whatever one you use. Twitter, Instagram is all teamE4E. And E4 as the number 4, and anything like that. Even Tumblr, I think we're on Tumblr too. So leave us a good word. Let us know what we're doing right. Let us know what we're doing wrong, and we'll try to make the best show for you. What do you say, Rob?
That's all I got. Said it well, John.
Until next time, we'll talk to you later.
Talk to you.
Thanks for listening to the Endurance for Everyone podcast. If you have comments or questions for the show, send an email to teamE4E at enduranceforeveryone.com. And remember, swim calm, bike strong, and run steady.
Ready to start your journey? Whether it's your first workout or you are a seasoned athlete, Endurance for Everyone Coaching wants to work with you. Our coaching team has worked with athletes from beginners to USAT national qualifiers and are comprised of experienced runners, cyclists, and triathletes who have a passion for healthy living and have been where you are. We offer comprehensive coaching programs from weekly support to basic consultation, all designed to help you achieve your goals. If you want to take your performance to the next level, look no further than Endurance for Everyone Coaching. Go to www.teamE4E.com and click on the coaching link or send an email to teamE4E@enduranceforeveryone.com. And let's get started.